Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you are. Um, my name is Nanette Kennedy. I run um, the Evo Revo group and the book group, and I have lots of helpers, so I'm not the only one doing this. And I'm the Worldwide Communications Director for Humanities Team. And today we are on page 220 of Friendship with God. And Linda, I'm going to let you which, by the way, is by Neil Donald Walsh. Anyway, if you want to go ahead and start reading, Linda, and you choose where you want to start, where you think it's best.
I think we'll start right with the introduction sentence about Joe Walton. So we're on page 220 in the book and the Kindle version. And just a reminder to everybody to mute their lines, please. There's a lot of background noise. It's hard to read over. So this is Neil speaking. I take it then that out of the same category came my meeting with Joe Alton. You take it correctly. You knew that one day I would need to know all about the political arena if I was to carry your message to the nation, and indeed to the world, in a very effective way. It was you who knew that. You've always known that you wanted to bring new hope to the world. And you understood very well, at a deep level, that politics as well as religion are the two areas where changes would have to be made if new hope was to be born, much less endure. Yeah, I've always been interested in politics from the time I was a kid. I just happened to have been have a father who was steeped in local politics much of his life. He worked for candidates. He made sure he knew the people holding office. And our house was always filled with judges and aldermen and ward healers and precinct captains, many of whom regularly played cards with my dad. When I arrived in Annapolis at 19, the first thing I did was to get to know Joe Griscom, the mayor, and Joe Alton, the county sheriff. Inasmuch as I worked for the local radio station, I was nominally a member of the working press, so I had a little easier time getting to see these men. I also had something to offer. A little airtime never hurt any politician, and I gave both Joes plenty. Not long after I met him, Joe Alton ran for state senate from our district and won. I liked Joe immensely. Most folks did. He won his elections by wide margins. And when some citizens of Anne Arundel County began pushing for a charter from the form of government, Joe was corralled into heading up the movement. I became involved in the campaign for home rule, and it was victorious. Joe Alton went on to be elected as Anne Arundel's first county executive. Several years later, when I found myself back in Annapolis at the Anne Arundel Times, Joe Alton called one day. He liked the way I'd been covering county government, and now he was running for another term as county executive and needed a press aide. But his call didn't come to me, it went to Jay. I guess he didn't want to offend the owners of the local weekly and figured he'd better ask before he offered me a job. Jay walked into my office one afternoon about 3 or 4 months before he died, and he said, "Your friend Joe wants you to come work on his campaign." My heart jumped. I was always being given these incredible opportunities. They were always dropping in my lap. Jay saw my excitement. "I guess you're going, huh?" I didn't want to disappoint him. "I won't leave if you really need me. You've been great to me, and I owe you." "No, you don't," Jay corrected me. "You owe yourself. Always remember that. If you can have something you want without hurting somebody, you owe it to yourself to go after it. Clean up your desk and scram." "Right now? Why not?" I can see where your heart is, and there's no point in keeping you here, counting the days till you can get over there, so go ahead. Jay stuck his hand out, and I shook it. I've been enjoying this, he smiled. Cub reporter to managing editor. It's been quite a ride for you. Yeah, we've had a good ride, too. Thanks for taking us along. No, thanks for taking me along, I choked up. Thanks for giving me a chance. I really needed that job when you gave it to me. I'll never forget that. I don't know how I could ever repay something like that. I do, said Jay. How? Pass it on. That was it. How could I leave this guy? How could I abandon the paper? Jay saw the look on my face. Don't even think about it. Pack your stuff and get out of here. Then he was gone, just like that, out of my office, out the door to the street. But as he left, he looked over his shoulder. Don't look back, friend. Don't look back. Never look back. It's the last time I saw him. He gave you good advice. Really? We should never look back, ever? There's nothing to be gained from looking back? Yeah, what he meant was no second guesses. Move forward with no second guessing, no guilt trips, no hesitation. Your life is out in front of you, not behind you. What you've done is what you've done. You can't change that, but you can move forward. Yes, but isn't it okay to have regrets? Yeah, as long as you don't confuse regret with guilt. They are not the same. Your regret is your announcement that you did not demonstrate your highest idea about who you are. Guilt is your decision that you are not worthy of doing so ever again. Your society and your religions teach you of guilt, which requires you to be punished without hope of rehabilitation. Yet I tell you this, the purpose of life is to recreate yourself anew in each moment, in the next grandest version of the greatest vision you've ever held about who you are. In this, I have joined you as co-creator, seeing where you are going, seeing the path you have set for yourself, and giving you the tools to experience exactly what you needed to experience, to create exactly what you needed to create. All of this has been called forth by you and me together. Whose will is it then? I tell you it is divine will. Remember this always. Your will and mine is that will which is divine. Your will and mine is that will which is divine. Oh man, that's wonderful. Wow, that says it, doesn't it? That puts it all together. You have a way of doing that. You have a way of putting it in all in 10 words or less. That's another way of saying something you said in conversations with God. Your will is you, is for you, is my will for you. Yes. But you said something back there that struck me. You said that I've simply been using God to make my life happen. Somehow that doesn't seem right. I mean, it doesn't feel as though that's the kind of relationship I'm supposed to have with you. Why not? I don't know exactly, but somewhere mixed in there are some things I've been taught about being here to serve God. When I was at St. Lawrence Elementary School in Milwaukee, and I was really thinking that I was going into the seminary, I remember the nuns talking about God using me to serve God's purpose. There was never any talk about my using God to serve my purpose. And yet this is how I would have it be. It is? You would? Yes. You want us to use you? We're not here for you to use us? Part of the problem in understanding this, in straightening this out, is that this conversation is being constructed on top of a separation paradigm. That is, we are talking as if you and I are somehow separate from each other, which is, of course, how most of the human race thinks of it. It's how most people imagine their relationship with God to be. So it may be useful to talk within that paradigm if it allows for greater understanding. But I just want to note that we are speaking of the illusion here, not reality, not what is real. I understand. I agree that there may be some benefit in speaking in illusory terms about life inside the illusion. I am clear that all life on earth is illusory. I know now and often deeply experience the ultimate reality of oneness with you and with everything and everyone. But it is helpful sometimes to discuss things within the framework of my and many people's lesser understandings. Speaking within that framework, are we not here for you to use us? If you were here for me to use you, why is the world the way it is? Could it be that this is what I had in mind? Or could it be that this is what you've had in mind? I tell you this, it is the latter and not the former. The world around you is exactly what you've had in mind. I'm going to say that again because there's a possibility you've missed it. I said the world around you is exactly what you've had in mind. What you've carried in your mind about the world is what you will see around the world. When you carry in your mind about your life is what you will see in your life. If I have been using you for my purposes, as you have framed them in your limited understanding, I must be a very inefficient God. I can't seem to get anything done. Even using you as my messenger and assistant, even sending to earth my only begotten Son, as some of you would have it, I have been unable to turn the tide, to change the course of events, to create the world of my desires. Could it be that my purpose has been to create the world as it is? Of course not. Unless my purpose has been for you to create the world as you choose. In that case, you have served my purpose, and I have been using you. Yet you have also been using me, because it is only through the creative power that resides within you, power given to you by me, that you have been able to create the world of your dreams. This is the world of my dreams? If you had not dreamed it, it could not be. Oh, many days it seems like the world of my worst nightmares. Nightmares are dreams as well. They are particular kinds of dreams. How do I get rid of them? Change your mind about what you hold in mind about the world. It is a part of the same process of which I spoke earlier. Think about what you're going to think about. Think on things good and wondrous. Think of moments of splendor, visions of glory, expressions of love. See ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added unto you. Exactly. And use God in the process? God is the process. The process is what I am. It is the only process you call life. It is the process you call life. You cannot use me. You can only not know that you are. Yet if you use me consciously, if you use me with awareness, with intention, all things will change. This is step 5 in creating friendship with God. Use God. Please tell me how to do that. It still seems so strange to think of it in those terms. I need you to help me understand what it means to use God. It means to use all the tools and gifts I have given you. The gift of creative energy, which allows you to form your reality and create your experience with your thoughts, words, and deeds. The gift of gentle wisdom, which allows you to know the truth in times when it may be good to judge not by appearances. The gift of pure love, which allows you to bless others and accept them without condition, granting them the freedom to make their own choices and to live them, or giving your divine self the freedom to do the same. Each of you recreating yourself anew in the next grandest version of the greatest vision you've ever had or held about who you are. I tell you, there is a divine force in the universe, and it is made up of these: creative energy, gentle wisdom, pure love. When you use God, you are simply using this divine force. May the force be with you. Precisely. Do you think George Lucas came up with that by accident? Do you imagine that that idea came out of thin air? I tell you, I inspired George to come up with those words and the ideas behind them, just as I am inspiring you now to come up with the words and ideas here. So now, go now and do that which you have given yourself to do. Change the world by force. And use me. Use me all the time, every day, in your darkest hour and in your shining one, in your moment of fear and in your moment of courage, in your ups and your downs, your highs and your lows. I tell you, you will have all of these, and have had them. For everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to harvest that which has been planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. What is it time for now? That is the question. What time do you choose for it to be now? You've had all of these times, and now it is time for you to choose which time you wish to experience this time. For all that has ever happened is happening now, and ever will happen is happening right now. This is the eternal moment, the time of your new deciding. The world awaits you and your decision. It will put you into place it will put you into place what you place into being. You will place into being what you are being. This is how it works. This is how it is. And now is the time of your awakening to this truth. Go forth and spread this message to all the world. The time of your deliverance is at hand. For you have prayed to me, deliver us from evil. And I am doing so again with the message found here. I am holding out again the hand of friendship a friendship with God. I am always here for you. Always. Always. End of chapter.
Well, that was a good passage, half a chapter, I thought. Anybody have thoughts they want to open the discussion with?
Well, I'll just say that I think it's an interesting concept, the shift of focus from God's using us versus we're using God.
Hi. Am I off mute now? Am I okay? I'm off mute. Wow, what a passage. I am so far away from what we just read today. I don't think I've ever felt this exhausted. And thinking about, what do you want to choose in your next moment? Anyway, what about those moments when you just are not up to choosing what you want to choose? That's it. Thanks.
Well, not choosing is choosing.
That's true.
And, I don't think that this is a requirement that every minute of every day you're choosing, even though you may, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the fact that I need to choose to straighten up my bedroom and do laundry. But it is a choice. And I can't remember if this was Neil in a interview he gave recently or if it was in something we read, but he said to get up in the morning and do things on purpose. Like he said, if you're making your cup of coffee, do it on purpose and do it with thought. And if you're going to go walk around the block, do your walk with thought. If you're going to make breakfast for your family, do it with, be present. And he was talking about loving what you do that's ordinary. And I think that's important because oftentimes we look for things that are extraordinary. Or we do things on automatic, like get up, make the coffee, feed the dogs, give them water. And I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just doing it. Over.
Yeah, I was thinking on page 225 and into 226, Neil says, I am clear that all life on earth is illusory. I know now and often deeply experience the ultimate reality of oneness with you and with everything and everyone. But it's helpful to sometimes discuss things within the framework of my and many people's lesser understandings. I just wondered what everyone thought about experiencing the oneness and whether whether others do experience it a lot. And he says he often experiences it. So I just wondered if people do experience that often. Okay.
Well, I'll say that I do. I have that experience quite often. And then I wanted to go back to what Anne had said for a second too, and Thank you, Anne, for bringing that up, because it's an interesting discussion. Like, I was having a discussion with somebody the other day. We were having a discussion about waking up happy. And this person said, I don't have that choice. I don't have that choice of waking up happy. And I feel like that kind of ties in with your question about, you know, like when you just don't have it in you to make the choice. And it's something I think that's really worth exploring kind of in detail, because for one thing, I don't understand it. I don't understand not being able to make the choice. And I think that understanding that mechanism is really kind of key to, because I've always been able to make the choice. And so it would really personally help me, I think help others, if I could understand better what that mechanism is where people feel like they don't have an ability to make a choice.
It's interesting, because I think yesterday I feel like I lived a lot. So many major things came up for me that also cleared, but the taking care of my 96-year-old mom and my friend that has dementia and the little situations in my life, it's like today I'm sitting here with tears dripping down my eyes. And I've never felt, it's like I'm so exhausted. I don't want to get out of bed. And the parallel is that some days I can really relate to my mom, because she really feels that way a lot of times. You know, it's like she, you know, and most of the time she doesn't even think about it. It's like she just, each day is just, she's glad to be alive. But there's also, what's changed in her is that when the challenges of the outer world went away, she found a music station, and she lays in her bed for 3 hours a day, and she listens to the old music of Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett, and I don't know who, you know, who else from her day and age and everything. And she goes into this other place when it's kind of beautiful. And then so it's just the shifting between the energies of how we can contain the different levels of emotional magnitude. I can't believe this, I'm saying all this, okay. Emotional magnitude that in the moment is surfacing. Okay. Interesting statement.
Could I ask you, so I just want to clarify, do you mean that you feel exhausted looking after your mother and that you don't have a choice other than to carry on looking after her? Am I right there? Or?
No, and yes. Yesterday I felt like that. And that was one of the things that I was wading through, was getting through the feeling of, you know, well, she's my mother, I've got to do it. And today I basically asked her if I could if she could be okay one night tonight. And I thought I would talk to her again, because I need the time. So it's a mixture right now, but I think it's more me. It's not that I feel, you know, I want to be there for her. There's some joyous moments. Not as many as I would like, but there's some precious moments that I'll remember for the rest of my life. I wouldn't want to miss those. So there's always a pull. I'm just exhausted, period. I don't know where to pull the energy.
Right.
Right. That kind of. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, sure it does. I mean, I'm in a similar position. I mean, my mother lives with me, so I understand. But I'm not exhausted. But what I mean is, I feel I do have a choice. I feel it's the right thing for her and possibly the right thing for me. I'm not quite sure that I should care for her and we should live together, but I do feel that I have a choice. I think there was a time in the past where I felt that I didn't have a choice. I'd have to do it, but I do have a choice, and I'm choosing to care for my mother because that's the right thing for me to do. If I choose not
Yeah,
to, then that's my choice.
yeah, I think it's a tear. I think because there's the obligation. It's that I'm obligated to do it, and I want to be able to choose, and I'm not always there at wanting to do it. And there is no choice. Tonight I try to make a choice. But it's more like with my friend Darryl, if I choose not to do it, he doesn't have a reality. I went there 2 nights ago. I did a healing on him. I'm a healer. And I stayed and I prayed, but he was hysterical. They couldn't calm him down. It was like they were going to put him in a rubber room because something happened and it was very valid, but nobody could understand him. And my being there made all the difference. And for the last 2.5 days, he's had total peace and he's been fine. And there's no one else. I'm the only person in his world, meaning his family doesn't care, his children don't care. And the joy that I get in those moments with him is not something I experience anywhere. There's a very deep love. Do you understand what I'm saying? But at the same time, dealing with having, I don't know. I said enough, honey.
Well, I would just say that
So I'm not sure, yeah.
CWG says that the purpose of a relationship is to see which part of you wish to you want to show up, and also within relationships there is no obligation. I mean, I think he was talking more about love relationships, but in relationship generally there is no obligation, there is only opportunity.
Can I share something?
Much brighter picture.
Yes, Bima, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think all the time there's a synchronicity in what we are reading and talking about. And now you are talking with your mother. I cared for my mother for more than 40 years. From she was 59 to she was 99 when she passed away. She either stayed with me or my father died when she was 45, and then she remarried and she was not happy. So I invited her to stay with me and my kids and my family, and she traveled to India with me and she did everything I did, she did. And she lived either with me or in a community with me or just apartment besides or below. So she lived in this house to the very end, almost. The last 2 years she was in an elder's home, but I visited her and talked to her every day. And she said to people that she followed me like she was a dog. In a way, I followed Bima as a dog, but she trusted me completely. And because we could be in this meditation and that she was interested in the spiritual field, she developed so much by being with me. And I must say, I am so grateful. She passed away in 2014. I'm so grateful that I opened my heart that she could stay. And I remember when I went to her saying, I'm going to India. I go with you, she said. And I was thinking, okay, no choice. She felt called. And she has done everything, stupid things I've done. She has followed me also into starting community, living in a community, being with the kids in the school, everything. And I forced her to write a book, a very spiritual book. She used to tell things, but I got her to write it. So we haven't published it, but it exists. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And just before this call, I have, since yesterday, read one of my scriptures that I wrote 20 years ago. And it's about the same subject that we are talking about. I'm amazed. I didn't know I had forgotten that I have written it. But it is really to be connected to the divine source and live from there. I mean, it's in Swedish though. So So I feel, everything you talk about is synchronizing with my life at the moment. So thank you for having this group. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I too cared for my mother. And I remember because I moved from one state here in the US to another state to go care for her. And I had the benefit of female siblings that did live out there that could help. So it wasn't 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But even still, there were some difficult times. I will say my mom had a sense of humor up until she wasn't lucid anymore. But she always was cracking jokes. And I mean, she would say funny things like, bury me standing up so that two of my other siblings could be buried in that same plot. And I'd be like, we're not going there. She goes, well, then cremate me if that's easier. But I don't regret a moment of caring for my mother. And one of the most profound things, because I'm the oldest of this big family, is that my mom came to me one day and said, I am having trouble giving myself a sponge bath. And I knew how hard it was for her to ask me to do that. And she had taken off her bra. And I got so choked up because the last time I touched my mother's breast was when I was a baby. And I just did it. I did it with love. Over.
One of the teachers that I work with, Ken Stone, has a saying that everything is a love note from God. And it can be challenging to look at each moment, depending on what's happening in the moment, and remember that. But I really think it's true. It's just a matter of perspective, I guess. Over.
I'll just weigh in. I do think from my life that has been probably the deepest learning I've done. I used to have a teacher 40 years ago who would say to our small group, well, you probably don't think of it this way, but he would say, someday you might look back and say this was your greatest gift, when we were addressing burdens, unfathomable burdens that we were facing for us. And I remember the sense of amazement that where I was with my life, and my feelings of feeling trapped and feeling a victim and feeling I didn't have a choice might be my greatest gift. It was amazing. And just having that visual to turn from no to yes has been profound for my life. I'm not saying it's easy, but hearing a number of you who have faced the daily care of an aging parent, which I think is heroic. I do think, and I hear in what you're saying that perhaps that has become a treasure for you also. It's not how we usually think of our lives, as being what's in front of us, as I think Linda just said, and saying yes to what's in front of us, but not forcing it on yourself. Saying, yes, you can come into my heart. Let's see what happens when you actually come inside. You know, am I going to be, will I actually let you in my heart, or am I not ready to let you in my heart, but I'll have a conversation with you about it. That's been my working place, and it's been a good one for me. Thank you.
Excellent points, Joyce. Especially picking up that we're not complaining because we see the blessings. I mean, we may have a day where we complain, but it doesn't sound like anybody here who's taking care of their mother has regretted doing so and embraces that time. And it could be a father too. I mean, it doesn't have to be a mother figure, but anyway, good point. Over.
I just wanted to weigh in a little bit too. I took care of my mother because I lived nearby. I made sure I lived nearby her because she was, we didn't know she was going to die. It was unexpected, but she broke her back and she had spinal stenosis, and, you know, she had a bunch of health problems, and I knew she needed help. And she lived on the second floor in my mother's house. That's still there and everything. But I said, Mom, I'll help you move your bedroom downstairs in your office, because she's retired, and, you know, she was 76 years old, and she was really having trouble, and she was so stubborn. You know, she didn't ask for anything. She was from a bootstrapper. She was born in 1939, so she grew up in the Depression in Indiana, which is very hard for her. It's a rural area of farmers and so forth. But she didn't ask for help. And even her daughter, who was just right there, you know, her only daughter. But she said, she called me one morning, like early at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was in my apartment. And she said, could you come up here, please, and help me lace my sneakers, please, lace my shoes, please. That's the only thing she ever asked me. She was in wicked pain. I mean, she broke the lumbar region of her back, and, you know, she could barely walk towards the end there. And she had 2 powerful dogs, border collies and stuff. So she just didn't, she was like what they call a bootstrapper, and just didn't ask for help. But I knew she needed it, so I would just offer it without her even asking when I could. I cleaned her house for her. I did all her chores and stuff like that. I helped her in that way. But it's very hard with these stubborn people, you know. I knew she needed help, and she would just never ask for it. So I can relate to what you guys were saying. Thank you. Over.
May I do the meditation, please? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
All right. Would it be all right if I did a meditation now?
Yes.
Okay. So we are here, God, because we choose to listen, not just to you, but to ourselves. And we are making the decision to open the door to our heart, because that's where integrity lives. Amen.
Thank you, Shabana.
I have my daughter and Wiley here, and it's taken them more than 24 hours, something like 28 hours to get here. And they're only here for less than 2 days, you know? But my goodness, hearing the stories about all the people who looked after their mothers is really something, because without family and without love, I don't know how the world would spin.
I'm not sure in all parts of the world it does spin. We hear about all these children coming up without parents from Central America through Mexico and into the United States. And I think if we keep our hearts open to doing whatever it is we can do, wherever you are living, and just keeping those families in our thoughts and prayers. I mean, there's sometimes when we can't physically do anything, but keeping those families in our thoughts and prayers. And in our country, we can vote certain items in, or so they don't go away, to take care of those families. Over.
Well, I really believe that the bottom line for everything is love. And if we just make the choice not to worry, I mean, I just told Wiley and Amina, I'm on the line, like this is what I'm going to do, because I've made the choice to be a person of integrity. And you know, they're almost 28 and 30, and what do I care? I have to live with myself, and I don't like missing this call, and that's all there is to it. And you know, like, God himself is looking after everything. It's not like he doesn't know what's going on.
I agree. And I think if we all, it's like last week when I mentioned the situation I was dealing with, I just needed to be held by you guys. You know, it's like I'm giving myself goosebumps just talking about it, but I did. I needed this core group right here, and those that have not been around for a couple of weeks or whatever, just to hold the space for me. Because it was such a sad situation. And it was like, somebody on this call today even said, sometimes you can be going through one of the most incredible things, and it might have been Anne, and you just feel like, I can't keep carrying it. It's like you're carrying a stack of cushions, but you can't see where you're going, you know, and eventually your arms get tired. And that's why when I want to reach out to you all. Over.
Thank you, by the way. I really thank the group so much today. It really is to be held and to be carried is what this group has given me. And I'm very grateful. And when I came on this call, which was, I don't really remember when, but I don't know if I had shared the story of that I was very sick and I was dying. And make a long story short, God healed me and I got well. And it was like I was given a second chance at life. And now it's kind of like everything we go through. I went through so much of that alone because I didn't know how to ask for help. And what I see, though, is that we are given and we are taken care of in ways that we may not see while we're going through it. And then we get to give back. And so maybe like the reading today, when there's a time for every season, maybe some days for me, I just need to give myself a break and just see that there's a time to take and a time to give. And you have to know how to do that with yourself, which is a lifetime learning, I think.
Yep.
Over. Thank you.
Very well said.
Yeah, I would also say that it's incredible to have a group like this who is reading such a deep, profound scripture, and to be able to share things you don't talk about much. And I can refer, I mean, you remind me of when my father died when I was 14. I had to take it. I had to go into it. I had to be present. I had no choice. No one to talk to because no one talked. I had no brothers and sisters. And then, even then, when my daughter died, when I was present with her, as I told you before, I was looking into her eyes when she died 15 years ago. And to be present there, no, there is no one really to talk to because most people are not connected to the source of life in the way that this book is going to inspire us to or invite us to do. And the same was with my mother. That's why we came so close, is because we had this. And that was my daughter's choice to be with me because she could go into her depths with me. Not because I was her mother, but because she could do that. She stayed with me. And I think, as I told you last time, she read those books. She loved the Conversation with God books. And she was so deeply spiritual. And to be present in such moments. I mean, you say father, mother, daughter. I was a mother and my daughter died. And today, I would be sick, and I'm 72 now, if I get sick, my daughter is not there for me in that physical way, but I feel the energy. And as I asked my son, will you come, my youngest son, will you take care of me when I grow old? If I need help, that the robots will do, he said. Because it's not that way. I mean, daughter is a daughter. That's the difference. So I think the female always have this connection to nurture each other, to be present. So thank you for all these sharings, and I feel connected to all of you, and I know it's only from the inner source that we can unite in the right way, no matter to whom or where we are. And thanks for this inspiration to be there with you. That's the only life purpose I have for the rest of my life, to be from there, to live from there, to connect from there. It's not so easy always, but that's the only way to have a qualitative life. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank everybody, because the time is at the top of the next hour. And I just love you all. And as I say every week, I look forward to it. And sometimes I'm actually kind of tired when we start the call. And then I get enthusiastic as the call goes forward.
Yeah.
So, so that's a really positive thing. It's like, and it's not like I'm dreading coming to the call. It's just like I'm kind of tired. So anyway, I've got a granddaughter at my elbow that I must go take care of. Piper. Love you guys.
Love you. Love you all.
Thank you. Love you all.
See you next
week. See you next week.
To all of you from my heart.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
My heart.
Big hugs.
Love. Oh, the dogs are agreeing.